but we're going to continue to move forward. All right, we're going to open up. Professor Moore, are you here? I think I know I just saw you a few moments ago. Professor Moore, we're going to turn over to you. Oh, wonderful! I see you. How are you doing? You're on mute right now. Let me.
Good morning.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, wonderful. So good to see you. Thank you. We welcome you here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to turn this over to you. Earlier this morning, when I was doing the libation, I essentially had a chart up and I talked about everybody's session that was going to be going forward for the day overall. And so I've already somewhat talked about your session, so I don't want to steal too much of your time. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and go ahead and move on forward. But again, we thank you so much for being here. Now let me make sure I put myself on mute while I clean my coffee up. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I always get in trouble with my students because I go into doing my presentation and I realize I'm not sharing my screen. So let me make sure I share my screen. Can everyone see my PowerPoint? Yes, okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let me pull up a couple other things. First of all, I want to thank you, Brother Harvell, for inviting me here. You truly are an inspiration to me, and the fact that you invited me here means that I must have something of value to present. So I really do appreciate you, and I thank you for all for coming and seeing my session. Again, my name is Harriet Moore Kovach. I am a sociologist and an instructor at a local community college. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the sources of inspiration and strength that I draw from on a daily basis to keep me forward and remembering not only who I am, but whose shoulders I stand on and what am I here for in terms of preparing for the future generations and who will stand on my shoulders. So when I think about the title of my presentation, and I apologize, I'm a little nervous because I'm excited, but I get a little excited and I get nervous. But the title of my presentation is Remembering Whose Shoulders You Stand On and Envisioning Those Who Will Be Standing on Your Shoulders. And why I'm using this phrase is because I want us to remember that we're sandwiched in between the past and the future. And we're sandwiched between these two because we need to remember and be mindful of not only who we are, whose we are, but also our purpose and what we're supposed to leave behind for the generations that come after us. And we need to be purposeful in our delivery of what we do and in our passions and our jobs and all. But we also have to be mindful of agency, that we do have agency, that despite what the world is telling us in terms of what you can and cannot do, we absolutely have agency, which is the capacity for us to exercise independence and make free choices. But that does come at a cost. It does come with a lot of benefits if we're able to master that. I'm going to try to bring up the chats, but I don't know if I'll be able to keep an eye on that. But I want to give us a quick overview of what I'm going to be covering. So when I was thinking about giving this presentation, there were a couple of things that came to mind. Number one, obligation. What do we mean by obligation? How does that relate to whose shoulders we stand on and who will be standing on ours? I think about the looking glass self theory, which is a sociological theory that we use to talk about the development of self and how that could be instrumental in determining our purpose, but also remaining self-determined. I also have to be mindful of the imposter syndrome, because although we may have a strong sense of self, we can be knocked off our square. We could be thrown off balance. So to be aware of the imposter syndrome. But also, again, remembering that we do have self-determination. We do have the agency to make choices that will pave the way for others. Then also to remember the strength that we do have, despite a world telling us that we don't have the strength, we don't have the power, we don't have the juice, for lack of a better phrase. So when I think about obligations, I think about our ancestors. And when I think about our ancestors, I think about a plaque that I keep on the back of mine. I don't know if you all can see it, but I used to have it at work. I brought it home. And it reminds me of my obligation in my capacity as an instructor, as a daughter, as a mother, as a sociologist. And it basically says, the caption reads, "We owe it to our ancestors and to the sacrifices they made to continue to achieve higher goals while maintaining our dignity." And that to me is very important, because when I think about our ancestors, I think about what they had to survive in order for me to be here today. I think about the Middle Passage, and let's just put this into context. I'm going to get kind of graphic here for a minute. When I think about what our ancestors had to endure in that Middle Passage, cramped quarters, stale, stagnant heat, blistering heat, the stench, the disease, the death, the rapes, the beatings, and not to mention the heartbreak of knowing that they will never see their loved ones or their homeland again. And that was just the ride over here. Now, once they got here, our ancestors had to endure physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, psychological abuse and trauma for generations, not years, generations, in order for us to get here. So our genes are doused in strength and determination. Therefore, we have an obligation to do something more with our life because our ancestors sacrificed way too much for us to be here. So to our ancestors, I say thank you for surviving. When you weren't even defined as humans, when you were denied existence. Therefore, I have an obligation to live my life with purpose, driven by self-determination, so that their blood, sweat, and tears were not in vain, which means I have to have a clear definition of self, which distinguishes myself from the caricatures of Blackness that live in the imagination of America. And when I think about those images, the images of Blackness in the imagination of America, I think about the importance of, or the power of, an idea. And I think about one of my favorite movies, which is Inception. I have a lot of movie references. I watch a lot of TV. I see Sociology and everything, so I apologize. But one of my favorite movies is the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. And when you think about Inception, it means the starting point. So let's start in terms of who we are. And in the film, he has this quote where he says, he asks the question, what is the most resilient parasite? A bacteria, a virus, an intestinal worm, an idea. Resilient, highly contagious. Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate. An idea that is fully formed, fully understood, that sticks right in there somewhere. And so we think about the images that we're bombarded with as African Americans, as Black people in America. We're constantly having to fight between a distorted view of who we are versus an authentic view of who we are, which is steeped again in strength in their ancestors. Remembering whose shoulders we stand on. We have to constantly keep this in mind. And one of the theories that we use in sociology that we talk about in terms of the development of self is Cooley's looking glass self theory. Cooley's looking glass self theory talks about how who we are is a constant feedback of reflections in the environment in which we live in. So you think about going into a carnival where you have a house of mirrors. You know, we love the mirrors, right? You go in there, it's kind of funny. Some mirrors, you look kind of distorted. Other mirrors, you kind of look right, like the way you think you look. But then you also have those mirrors that kind of flatter you. You think about when you go clothes shopping, you may have a mirror that makes the clothes make you look a little thinner, what have you. But what it is again, it's a reflection. And so what Cooley's looking glass self theory is saying is that we never really see who we are. We only see who we are through the reflections of how people see us. And so in his theory, he has 3 basic steps. And he basically says how we imagine people see us. So how do we imagine people see us in America as Black people? How do we imagine they treat us based on how they see us as Black people? We then develop a sense of self, which we internalize. And so I want to go back to another quote from Inception, where he says, even the smallest seed of an idea can grow. It can grow to define or destroy you. In America, especially within the last 5 years, we've become hypersensitive to these things. We've been bombarded with a lot of ideas and images that are designed to destroy us, that are designed to cripple us. They're designed to see us as welfare queens, drug dealers, basketball players, super predators, hypersexualized individuals. But we have to remember who we are in order for us to exercise our agency and have self-determination. And unfortunately, some of our most significant people can plant a seed in us that they don't realize, or they do realize, can destroy us. And I think about one of the first times, and again, I didn't know about looking glass self back then because I was only in first grade, but looking back at my first grade experience, first time going to school, I went to St. Joseph's Elementary School in Kansas City, Missouri. And in that school, I was basically, the image that I believe people saw me as was a demon seed, a demon seed. The nuns told me I was a demon seed. I was always acting out. I was always getting in trouble. It seems like as soon as I walked in the door, I was in timeout. I didn't even do anything but say hello and I was in timeout. I was constantly being suspended. And so I didn't believe that I was worthy of learning. I didn't think I had the ability to learn. All I knew was I was disruptive. And so I began to internalize that. At one point, they told my parents that their money was no good. They said, you know what, she can't come back. Your money's no good. She's got to go somewhere else. So my parents were determined to prove them wrong. They were going to send me to another Catholic school. So they sent me to another Catholic school. So I thought maybe I'd have a fresh start. Nope. As soon as I got there, the same thing started to happen. I began to see myself as a problem child. I began to see myself as unintelligent, unable to read, unable to learn. I was always in the lower reading level groups. I was always in the remedial math classes. So I was always being bombarded by this image that I was not worthy. I was not teachable. I was unruly. I was disruptive. And it was just a matter of time before I was going to be a high school dropout. That was the image. That was the path that I felt was being laid out for me by the reflections I was seeing. So at one point, my parents decided to take me out and send me to Greenwood Elementary School. By the time I get to Greenwood, I'm in fourth grade reading at a second grade reading level. And all through third, fourth, and fifth grade, I was always lagging behind, always getting suspended, always getting in trouble, until I landed into Miss Lindley's class in sixth grade. Miss Lindley, I did not like her. She was mean. She was constantly on me. I was like, get off me, back up. She was always on me. And I remember thinking about her one day, and she was on me about something. And she told me to come to her desk. And I'm like, what am I in trouble for now? And she looked me in the eye. She said, I don't know why you work so hard to act dumb when you're smart. You're very intelligent, but you play like you're not. And I'm like, what? I'd never had anyone tell me that, especially not a teacher. And so I was like, okay. And then I got a test later on that day, and I failed the test. And I remember her looking at me and saying, perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps you're not. And I was like, how dare her? First tell me I'm smart, then tell me I'm dumb. So I made it a point to prove her wrong. I am smart. I am intelligent. And for that year, I worked so hard that I moved from a fourth grade reading level to a 12th grade reading level. At the end of the school year during the assembly, which I was never invited on stage because I was always in trouble, but this year I was invited on stage, and I was honored for being, if not the highest scorer, one of the highest scorers on the Iowa Basics Test of Skills. And it was at that moment that I said, wait a minute, I can do something. I can change the course of how people see me. I can be that intelligent person. And like I said, it was the first time, but it wouldn't be the last time I saw the power of agency and how self-determination can truly pay off. So again, an idea can grow to define you or destroy you, but you must be your own PR rep. You have to protect your self-image. But even though you work hard, you prove people wrong, you achieve all these goals, you still have to be mindful of that demon in the back, that distorted mirror that may tell you you're not good enough, you're not worthy. Because even in 2021, we may be the first in spaces to occupy spaces. In 2021, there are many walls and ceilings to burst through. And some doors have been boarded up that were once opened. Therefore, another key factor in self-determination is perseverance. Being the first and the only can feel like you have a huge bullseye on your back. That can cause you to begin to doubt yourself, which means it happens to the best of us. I mean, it happens, but you have to be mindful of this. I've been teaching for 22 years. I know it may not look it, thank you. Presented at many conferences here and abroad. I've been told by my colleagues and friends that I'm competent in so many words. I've been awarded a teaching award, invited to speak, which means, again, I must be competent. I must have something of value to offer, yet and still, I sometimes feel like I don't deserve it. I sometimes feel like I haven't earned it. I don't belong. I feel like I'm an imposter. And again, that's that distorted mirror coming back. And so one thing you also have to be mindful of is that the imposter syndrome is a distortion. In psychological and sociological terms, it's basically a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills and talents and accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. And so when I think about whether or not I belong, I have to remember about those who came before me. I think about, for example, Fannie Lou Hamer. I don't know if many of you all were familiar with her, but she was a civil rights worker in the South in the 1960s and 70s. And basically her famous line is, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." So when I start to feel like I'm an imposter, that I don't belong, I have to remember that Fannie Lou Hamer was sick and tired of being sick and tired. She said, "I know I'm not supposed to, I know I'm not supposed to vote. I know I'm not supposed to even be in this space as a Black woman, but I'm here. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to make waves. I'm going to pave the way for those people that come behind me." She was aware of the people that were going to stand on her shoulders, just like she was aware of the shoulders that she stood on. I think about Claudette Colvin, who a lot of people are not aware of, who actually sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. She was a 15-year-old girl who was 15 or 16 years old on the bus. And basically she was just saying, "Not today, not today." When she was asked to move, she said, "I can't move. I just couldn't move. History made me glued to that seat." So when I start to feel that imposter syndrome, I have too much is riding on me being here. Too many people are relying on me to prepare my shoulders for them to stand on. I can't think about that. I think about Shirley Chisholm, who had the audacity in 1972 to put her name on the ballot to be a candidate for the Democratic Party to become president of the United States, had the audacity. And she basically said, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." So when that imposter syndrome starts coming up, I remember my folding chair and I sit down and I remain there. I think about Ruby Bridges, 6 years old. I didn't realize she was that young, 6 years old, when she single-handedly desegregated, was it William Franz Elementary School in New Orleans. Now, she didn't say this when she was 6. She said this when she was much older, but she said, "Don't follow a path. Go where there is no path and begin a trail. When you start a new trail, equipped with courage and strength and conviction, the only thing that can stop you is you." So that's why you have to have a strong sense of who you are, not the distorted images that we see in the mirrors before us. We have to be mindful of who we are and whose we are. When I was in graduate school, it was difficult. If any of us, if those of us that have gone through graduate school know that the doors weren't necessarily opened up to us. We had to figure out where to find the financial aid. We had to figure out how to prepare for your prelims. I mean, we weren't given the roadmap to complete school or to complete a graduate program. We basically had to figure it out blindly, right? But we had to have the strength to keep on going forward, because what we are designed to do, what we were here to do, is too important for us to give up. And so when I think about another plaque that I have on the back of my wall here, it talks about strength. And it has a picture of former slaves, or as I like to say, the formerly enslaved, from former slaves in 1861. It says, "The strongest people in the world aren't those most protected. They're the ones that must struggle against adversity and obstacles and surmount them to survive." So again, I think about what our ancestors have gone through. I think about my grandmother, who used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to St. Luke's Hospital, to work in the laundry room, to clean sheets and fold sheets for beds in the hospital that she, as a Black woman, couldn't even be admitted to. I think about my grandfather, who was a boxman at the railroad, at the train, not a porter, but a boxman who used to load the trains. I think about my grandfather, who was a janitor. I think about my paternal grandmother, who was a domestic. I think about all the indignities they had to endure, but they kept on going because they had a dream of me and what I could do. And they instilled in me to keep on going, to be strong. Don't forget where you come from and whose you are and who comes after you in many ways. And it also made me think of, as I was preparing for this presentation, an article that I read in graduate school by Arturo Madrid. It's called "Missing People and Others." I'll try to get the link to you all, because to me, I think it's a powerful article. Because as we're grappling with these distorted images, as we're grappling with the imposter syndrome, as we're grappling with everything that's happening in the United States, the racial battle fatigue that we struggle with every single day, as yet another Black man has been killed by the police. Another piece of legislation has been introduced to limit our voting rights. As we deal with those things, we have to remember that we have to stay put. We have to save this space for who's going to come behind us. And so in this article, he's talking about, again, the missing people, the people that weren't invited to the table but brought their folding chair, the people that weren't necessarily invited in with open arms, but they got in and they stayed there and they propped those doors open for those that came behind us. So a couple of excerpts from the article I want to share with you all, where he's talking about how we enter into institutional life. As I said before, many of us didn't have a parent who had gone to college before us, or who had achieved some of the goals that we've achieved. So we didn't have a blueprint. We had to figure this out for ourselves. And so he's talking about this introduction to institutional life, how it's not traditional. It's not where you say you go to high school, you get a college degree, you get a good job, you buy a house, you have children, you have the great American dream. It doesn't always work out like that for us. And so he says that some of us entered into institutional life through the front door, others through the back door, still others through the side door. Many, if not most of us, came through windows and continue to come through windows. So I found some signs. I was just thinking about what did our ancestors have to go through? To spend our money, we couldn't just go through the front door. We had to go through a back door. When you're going to work, you have the sign here, staff and Negroes use the back entrance. This back balcony is reserved for colored patrons, for rent to colored folks. I mean, you think about all of these detours that have been put in our plate, that have been put before us, that we have to overcome. And so some of us continue to come through the windows. He said, of those who entered through the front door, those of us that had their credentials to get through the front door, some never made it past the lobby. Others were ushered into corners and niches. Those who entered through the back door and side doors inevitably have remained in the back and side doors. We talk about those glass ceilings. And those who entered through the windows found enclosures built around them. But one part he says in his article is, what's important is that you enter and you stay. Because we have to have fortified shoulders for those who are going to stand on them. We have to stay. When I think about, everyone wants to be a big, like a John Lewis. Everyone can't be a John Lewis. Everyone can't be an Angela Davis. Everyone can't be a Malcolm X, and Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris, and Barack Obama. But we can still clear the brush for those who will come after us. When I think about envisioning those who will stand on my shoulder, I get goosebumps. I get goosebumps because, and I'm gonna try not to cry, because the millennials and Generation X, you all are powerful. You all are able to organize. You all have this strong sense of who you are. I mean, you all are a force to be reckoned with. And you all have endured so much in your short number of years. 2 economic downturns, September 11th, January 6th, countless Black men and women killed at the hands of police officers that's supposed to be protecting and serving, but policing. I mean, not to mention debt, not being able to afford your own house, not being able to afford your own, having to rely on your parents, not being able to afford insurance. You all have endured so much. Yet you all still stand. You all are powerful. You all are out there protesting. You all are out there saying, not today, not today. You all are saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So when we start thinking about not only the shoulders that we stand on, we have to envision those who are going to stand on ours. And it reminds me of, I don't know if you all watch Game of Thrones. Like I told you, I have a lot of movie references. But there was a character on the show Game of Thrones called Hodor. And Hodor, he never said any other word except Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. So when I think about the shoulders that I'm fortifying for those that come after me, I think about Hodor, how no one understood what Hodor meant until we understood what Hodor meant. And it was a scene where he was trying to protect these other characters from the daywalkers, the people that were coming to kill them. And he stood in front of the door and he says, Hodor, Hodor, hold door, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door. We must hold the door so that the younger generation can come in. We must make sure that our shoulders are fortified so they don't waver. We have to make sure that our shoulders are strong so they don't fall through the floor. We have to make sure we have the strength to push them up just a little bit to get over those hurdles, because we have too much riding on our future. So when we think about those who have come before us, we have to remember we have an obligation to fill the gap. We have an obligation to hold the door. We have an obligation to make sure that our shoulders are strong so that they can have something to stand on. Like I said, we can't always be a John Lewis, but we can definitely make sure that we vote. And when we vote, we need to make sure that we're mindful of who we are giving authority to exert power on our behalf, because that will impact our future. That will impact the generation that comes after us and after them and after them. And so if nothing else from the presentation, it's a reminder that unfortunately our life is not our own. We owe a debt. Although our crown has been paid for, we need to pay for the next generation's crown. And the way we do that is to fortify our shoulders so that they have something to stand on. Thank you.
Wow. 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 Sister, that was powerful. Powerful. Wow. Powerful. Sister, that was powerful. We thank you so much. If you don't mind, we'd like to open up for some questions. However, in the essence of good speech, which is a part of our culture, I made a mistake when I was introducing you, and I want to make sure that I recognize my mistake and openly apologize for the mistake that I made. When I introduced you, I said Professor Moore. I did not say Professor Moore Kovac. Please forgive me. I want to make sure that I always am respectful. I'm always critical of making sure that I give people their proper due, and make sure that I get folks' names correct. And so I want to, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I'm always critical of those of naming. And so I just want to make sure that I want to just openly apologize to you, sister. Thank you so much.
No problem.
That was powerful, powerful, powerful. I'm going to be quiet because I'm sure that there are questions. Are there questions, folks? Are there questions?
I got to push down that imposter syndrome because I'm like, no, I wasn't. But no, thank you.
That was on point.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was on point, on point. Anyone, questions? I'm going to try to read through the chat.
I could ask.
Yes, please do. Yes, thank you.
Hello.
So, hi, thank you again so much. My name is Alana Schwartz. I'm a member of the Black Mountain Queens Focus Group, and I am currently a student at Henry Ford College, and my major is sociology. My focus is racial and ethnic diversity, and so listening to you speak today just makes me so inspired, of course. I just wanted to ask you kind of a personal question, and just how did you get interested in this? What sparked your interest in sociology, and also just like this corner of sociology where you're studying Black American studies?
I'll say I didn't know about sociology until I had my master's in sociology. And I know that sounds bad, but when I graduated, I'm an alumni of Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University. I forgot to put that shout out there. My dream was to become a lawyer and to become the first Black US Senator, but Carol Moseley Braun beat me, right? So my goal was to go to Tuskegee, go to law school, go to DC, knock them dead, become a senator, right? But what I found is that after I graduated from Tuskegee, my LSAT scores were not great. So I could not get the job or get into law school. And at the time I was working in Washington, DC at this legislative consulting firm. So I'm thinking, okay, I can usher my way into the political scene this way. My undergraduate degree was in political science. And I remember when I was asking about being a staff writer, one of the supervisors in the agency said, well, you need a graduate degree in order to become a staff writer. And I remember that was the first time that the opportunity was denied me because I didn't have a credential. So I said, okay, I need to go to graduate school. So I'm working in DC, too expensive, decided to move to Chicago, got accepted to Loyola University in sociology. Now, mind you, I did not know what sociology was. I could barely pronounce the word effectively. You asked me what it was, it's a study of society, that's all I knew. But what I did know is that they addressed issues that spoke to me about poverty, racial inequality, civil rights, all this stuff. I was like, wow, there's an actual science that you can study this? So I got accepted to Loyola. that was a horrible experience, but I survived. I survived. And while I was working there, I was working as a youth agent at a youth agency as an outreach worker. And when I was in this outreach, I was working with runaways and gang members and things of that nature. And as I was working on my master's program, as I completed my master's program at this agency, I wanted to become a supervisor because I wanted to put my degree to work as a youth worker. And I remember I was graduating in January, and a position became available in December. So I put my name out there. My director knew I was about to graduate, and so I said, "Okay, I want to put my hat in the hat to be considered." And I remember him saying, "There are two stacks of paper, Harriet." He said, "In this stack, these are people that are qualified, but they lack the credentials. In this stack, there are people that have the credentials and have the experience." He said, "Your application is here. There's no need for you to even think that you're going to get that position." And I said, wow. And that told me yet again, here's another opportunity. Even though I'm getting I'm graduating in January, I didn't have my degree in hand. And I remember thinking about structured inequality. I remember thinking about, how is it that people like me always find out that we're being ushered into a corner. We're being ushered into a niche. We're told to come in, but you can't stay for dinner. You can only stay for coffee. I'm like, what's going on? And so as I'm working as a social worker, I move on to Catholic Charities, where I'm working in relative foster care. And I'm saying all this to say, all these experiences, I was collecting these nuggets of information that gave me a fuller understanding of sociology. And what I began to say is, perhaps my role is not to be a lawyer. Perhaps my role is not to be a social worker and all this stuff. Perhaps my role is to be an instructor, so I can plant seeds into future doctors, future teachers, future police officers, future judges, so they understand the connection between the expectations that they were given my families were not meeting the resources that they had in their community, and that they weren't telling my families how they needed to get their children back or get their lives back in order, but they were being blamed for not figuring it out. So I said, you know what, there's something else I got to do. So that's when I began to say, okay, I want to teach sociology. And so when I began to teach sociology, I began to have to use those experiences when I was in Washington, D.C., use those experiences when I was a youth worker. And it led me to being able to really talk about race and ethnicity in an unemotional way. And I say that where, I mean, not getting angry and saying, saying all these anti-white. I had to learn how to speak the language of sociology to talk about race and ethnicity in meaningful ways, so that people heard what I was saying, and I could plant that seed, so the next time they saw a Black student, or the next time they had a Black client on their caseload, they didn't see them in those stereotypical roles of, you're just doomed to exist the way that you are, but there are ways for you to pull yourself up. So I'm saying all of that to say, it was by accident that I actually stumbled upon sociology, but it's something that has opened so many doors. I couldn't imagine the worlds that I've seen, the doors that have been opened to me simply because of sociology. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes, it did. Thank you for sharing your story. I have a very similar story, actually. I'm, of course, like, I go to Henry Ford, technically community college, but I also stumbled upon sociology accidentally. I was first an art major because I'm an artist, and going to a lecture by Dr. Harvell made me realize that there's an entire field of study where I can, like, apply my lived experiences and help other people overcome those challenges that I struggled with in the past. So I relate to you so much, and I just thank you for sharing your story again.
Absolutely, thank you. And if I could just add one more thing, another thing I noticed was the power of my presence. I talked a little bit about that in my presentation, but the power of my presence. I teach at a predominantly white institution, and I believe someone else earlier today spoke about it wasn't until they were in their engineering program where they had their first Black instructor and how it blew their mind. I love blowing people's mind. I love being in the front of the classroom when we had classrooms, remember, and people be walking down the hall, and I'd have a student that would stutter step and look in the door and be like, is that the teacher or that person doing a presentation? And I kind of wave, and then as soon as I come out of the classroom, like, what class do you teach? I've never had a Black instructor. And so I look at how my presence of just being a Black woman, being in a position of authority, being in front of the classroom is such an inspiration to people, even if they don't major in sociology. I tell them, you don't have to major in sociology, you're still gonna be a sociologist because it's what we do. but it's being present, of holding those doors, of being there to answer a question, to be there when a student is saying, I'm having a problem with this teacher because I think they're so-and-so. Well, this is what happened to me, and let me show you what I use. So it's a matter of just being there, because there's a lack of representation of us. So when students see us and they see that we reflect them, that's been the greatest gift. That's what keeps me going, despite the many obstacles that are thrown my way. That's what keeps me going. Sorry.
This is wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I have a comment.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much, Dr. Moore. I could that your talk resonated so much with me. So I'm an administrator in a school district where we have 50% of the students are students of color, but yet 90% of our staff are white. And so I typed in the chat, representation matters, because that is so important for our students to be able to see people that look like them in successful positions. And so I'm an administrator in the school district. I also have a doctorate degree because I'm trying to show our students what is possible if they truly believe that they can achieve and are committed to a good education. And so, you know, what you said, everything you said, I've been speaking for years about the shoulders that we stand on and the young people that are going to be standing on our shoulders, and making sure that we can help support them as much as we can, because you're absolutely right. What our ancestors went through for us to be here today, and if they could see what was going on today, they would be so disappointed, right?
Oh yeah.
But we just have to, we have to remain resilient, remain hopeful, believe in ourselves. Don't let this imposter syndrome take over our mind, and continue to be, you know, as successful as we can. And so I thank you so much for that. I wish I could have recorded it, because I'd be showing it to my students tomorrow. And my staff, because they need to see it too.
Thank you. I feel so honored. I mean, I thank you all for showering me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone? I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, but are there any other questions? I'll just throw this out at sister. I know you probably get tired of me, but that was powerful. And I just want to make sure that I make this statement. This goes right back to what Dr. Jenkins Williams was just saying in terms of representation. We are already in the process of planning our next conference, which is actually going to be in November 4th and 5th. And so you're going to probably get tired of me, but here I come with another asking for something.
No problem.
This conference here, and I really appreciate what Dr. Jenkins Williams just said about representation matters. This conference, the title of this conference is The Excellence of the Black Woman: Courage, Justice, and Education. And so I'm hoping that we will be able to call on you to come back and give us another wonderful talk here for this particular conference. I really do appreciate that. And so that's what we're working on right now. It's going to be November 4th and 5th. And as of right now, it will be still virtual. So we're working on that. But I just wanted to make sure I just put that out there in the atmosphere. And I'm going to be mentioning this conference all throughout our particular conference. But hopefully we can call on you to give us another wonderful talk for that. Are there any other questions? Anyone? Anyone? We're good? No one? Okay, while we're here, I want to just make sure Alana talked, and I want to make sure that I just sort of give her a shout out as well. Alana is going to be giving a magnificent presentation on Friday at 11 o'clock. As she mentioned, she is an artist and a sociologist, and the work that she has been doing here at Henry Ford has just been simply amazing. If anyone is interested, she did a magnificent presentation during our Black History Month program for the Black Male and Queens focus group on, and she did it during Black History Month on Kwanzaa, and it's a beautiful art show, just amazing art show. I'll just say that it's an amazing art show. Look, I'm a sociologist. I'm not the most artistic individual whatsoever, but I was just blown back. And so she takes this art, and then it's just awesome. But you can look online for at the Black Male and Queens focus group webpage. And what happens is that we recorded these particular videos, and so you can get her entire talk. Also, another one of our fabulous students, Brother Dia, a magnificent talk on as well. And so you can get all of that online. The videos are essentially there. I just want to make sure I give Alana. She's going to be doing a wonderful talk on Friday at 11 o'clock. And correct me if I'm wrong, Alana. I think it's at 11 o'clock, and she's going to be showing an art show on the Black Panthers. It's going to be a monster. Make sure I point this out. It's going to be a monster. So again, are there other questions, friends? Any other questions?
Well, I do have one more comment, and I'm sorry, I'm a talker. But, you know, when I was saying that representation matters, not only does it matter for our young people that are coming up, Generation X and Millenniums, but it also matters for other adults in our lives.
Absolutely.
And so I have at least a half a dozen people who are, you know, older adults who have gone back to school to get their doctorate degree because I paved the way to show them what was also possible. And so, you know, I thank all of you who are, you know, you first generation college students, you know, you have master's degrees and doctorate degrees because that's showing others what's possible for them as well. Even though they might be 20 years removed from high school. I have a girlfriend graduating from Wayne State this month, and she's 70 with her PhD.
Amen. Amen.
I'm so proud of her. So yeah, that representation is key. So thank you. I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. If I could close with just one thing, I wanted to share something that I got from TD Jakes. Like I said, I watch a lot. I get a lot of inspiration from watching people and hearing what they have to say. And there was something that he said that resonates with me, and I have to remember this, especially as we're thinking about the imposter syndrome and thinking about the obstacles and the struggles we encounter. But he says that everyone has an opinion about you. They say anything to you, and what has to happen is that in order for you to survive is that you have to get tougher. It doesn't mean meaner in terms of lashing out, but what is meant by tougher is a resilience and in your resistance to the irrelevance of things that have nothing to do with your destiny. And we have to get that noise out the way. As I said, some people have ideas of who we are, and you're never going to change their mind. It's irrelevant. That's not part of my destiny. You can say whatever you want to say about me. I know who I am. That's why you have to have that strong sense of who you are. And see it as it's irrelevant. I got too much to do. I had too many people are waiting on me. Too many people are relying on me to worry about what you think. I know who I am. I know whose I am, and I know why I'm here. And I just thought that was a powerful statement that he made.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other questions or comments? I always say questions, and I forget that folks may have comments, things that they want to add to the mix here. Anyone? Alana, yes, did I see your hand, Alana?
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you for mentioning my art show that is Friday at 11. I'm really excited to do it. And then also in the chat, I dropped the article about the Kwanzaa art show that I did in February, as well as the link to the recordings from Black History Month as well. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Harvell. You're powerful. Me and my friend Charlotte, I'm sure she's on here too, we always talk about how when we grow up, we're going to be like you, because you are a source of inspiration. I'm telling you, you are. And I appreciate you. I really do.
I appreciate your kind words. And, you know, like you just said, this is, you know, a testament to our ancestors and the struggle that they essentially went through. So hopefully we all we are all making our ancestors proud. And so I appreciate you. But again, this is a testament to our ancestors. I just hope that I'm working and that this work is the continuation of their particular work. And so again, you know, I'm proud of y'all sisters as well. You just, I want to say this, you know, I'm glad this time that I did have my microphone muted, you know, for when I dropped my coffee earlier, because you had me up in here hollering. I just want to be honest with you. And yes, I said hollering. Yes, I did. I did not say hollering. I said you had me up in here hollering. You sure did. And so again, right, again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was magnificent. You really took us down through there, and we really do appreciate it. Are there other questions or comments? We really so I just want to make sure that we're giving the professor enough time to answer any questions, comments. Anyone else? I want to make sure I'm checking the chat. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Okay, marvelous. Professor Moore Kovac, we appreciate you. I'm going to be contacting you. Well, obviously, you and I'll be in contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right on. I'm making it seem like I'm just going to talk to you in November. No, I know that we will get right on. I know that we will be in contact. But again, I just want to make sure I put out there that we will be having another conference coming up November 4th and 5th. The Excellence of the Black Woman, Courage, Justice, and Education Conference that we're going to be working on. So hopefully we'll be able to reach out to you and several other folks, who are on here. If you all are interested, please let me know. This is excellent. So we have a short break now. It's 11:47 right now. Our next session does not begin until noon. It does not begin until noon. And it's interesting, in the spirit of what Professor Moore Kovac was just talking about in the whole discourse of the excellence of the black woman. Our next session is actually called Queens on Campus. And so what's going to happen? Let's see if I can share my screen properly. You all let me know if you can see my screen. Oh, I went the wrong. Here we go. That's the no. I'm messing up. Next. And all right, one more. Can you all see that screen there? Okay, perfect. So this is our 12 o'clock session. And so right now, friends, as I told you all, one of the things that we're going to be doing in between sessions, and of course, this is a wonderful break time right on. So we have about a 10-minute break, and we're going to try. No, we're not going to try. We're going to start right at noon. And so at this particular point, friends, we'll take ourselves a little break. But I don't want to just take a break and we're just done. As I've said, I'm going to be showing and things of this nature from many of the organizations that have been working with the Black Male and Queens focus group. Particularly, we're going to be looking at videos and things from some of the colleges that we are featuring during this particular Black Male Retention and Success Conference. And so we have 2 college tours. We have what is called a state college tour, where we have several folks from various colleges in the state of Michigan that are going to be coming and giving talks to us all. In fact, later on today, some folks from the University of Michigan Ann Arbor are going to be speaking, I believe. Give me one moment. I can tell you exactly. Well, yes, I thought so. They're going to be speaking at 1 o'clock later on this evening. Okay, that's going to be the folks from University of Michigan Ann Arbor. And then tomorrow morning at 9:45, we have a state college tour, the very first one for Thursday morning. And the folks that will be there, it will be Ferris State University, Grand Valley State University, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, University of Michigan, and University of Michigan, Dearborn, and Lawrence Tech. And you all have to forgive me. Some of this is just coming from memory. And so forgive me that I'm sort of stumbling over these things. We also have what is called our HBCU conference. I'm sorry, our HBCU, which is Historically Black College and University Tour, where we have a number of HBCUs that are going to be here in the virtual space as well. And that first session is going to be Thursday at 12:55. We have Coppin State, who is going to be here with us. We have Johnson C. Smith, who is going to be here with us. We have Fisk, who is going to be here with us. And we have, I want to say it's Clinton College. Yes, that's correct, who is going to be with us as well. And then Friday morning, we have another HBCU tour that will show State and Alabama State. Now, I know there are some schools. I see you, Professor. I know you're upset with me. Tuskegee will be here in the fall. So I have talked with them. They will be here in the fall. So I hope that you and I are still okay. All right, right on. And so there are several other schools. The timing did not work for them, but some of the schools that will not be here for this particular session, of course, will be here in the fall. They've already in dates. And just as a quick side note, the conference in the fall, as of right now, is scheduled for 2 days. But as we start getting more and more of these folks coming in, maybe we will have to open this up for three days. I'm even thinking about having 1 full day of just colleges just sort of visiting and just talking to us. And so, I will make sure that so that the sister will still be my friend. That we'll make sure that we get Tuskegee here, indeed. And so again, we're going to be having that particular tour. So we have about 10 minutes until the next session. And so what I will do, as I said, I'm going to be showing some videos throughout the sessions that we are dealing with, just a way of just, sharing what some of the folks have been doing. I think let me make sure I do this here, what some of the folks have been, who are helping us or have been working with us. And so I want to make sure that I'm able to show their videos. And this is the wrong video, of course. Oh, that's the one I just showed. Here we go. So we'll start off with this one. Please let me know if you all can hear this properly. All right, everyone. How we doing, everyone? Everyone well? We're good? Everyone, uh-oh. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. I want to make sure that my microphone was not acting up again. We still have about another 5 minutes. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I see Director Taylor is with us. I see Miss Lee Jenkins is with us. I see Dr. Pringle with us. This is great. And so we have about another 5 minutes. So you all, please, we're just gonna hold off for a moment. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but at the same time, we want to try to keep things to the schedule in a sense. So we got 5 minutes. See, Dr. Pringle, how are you? So we got about 5 minutes, so we'll wait for a couple minutes before we get underway. Let's see here. About 5 minutes. 3 more minutes and we'll get underway. We're going to try to start right at order. Again, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We thank you all so much for being here and joining us, the Black Male and Queens Focus Group of Henry Ford College, for our second annual Black Male Retention and Success Conference. Again, I've just made the announcement, but I'm going to make this announcement throughout the duration of the conference for the next couple of days. November 4th and 5th, we will be having our very first Excellence of the Black Woman, Courage, Justice, and Education Conference. And so the call for papers will be out toward the end of the summer. But if there are those of you who already know that you would like to present or do something in relationship to this particular conference, please feel free to connect with me or to connect with any of the members of the Black Male and Queens Focus Group and let us know. And we will certainly continue to follow up with you all to make sure that you are here for this magnificent conference. Again, the Excellence of the Black Woman, Courage, Justice, and Education. And again, that will be at Henry Ford College. And as of right now, it will be a virtual conference. It will be a virtual conference. We have about 2 minutes before we get underway. About 2 minutes before we get underway. Again, I want to thank you all for being here. All right, 1 minute.